It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Hello and welcome to IMP's AEW Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Ed Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. A link is in the description. Read the Social Suplex newsletter. Shout out to Trish and Tim as always, and to every person who's contributed so far. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide, Joshing Around. It's reached the point now where I can't plug all of our shows in one breath. We've got too much going on. It's great to see. My name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp. This is your quick look back at the AEW week that was. 30 minutes of AEW Double or Nothing from Queens, New York. I didn't watch the buy-in, so when commentating the main event started bringing up about MJF getting retribution for what he did to Mick Foley, that was the first I'd heard about it, but I didn't see any Mick Foley. It's been a push just to even watch the show so I can record this and get the edit out. Just no time for the buy-in. If there's anything super necessary on it, just tell me and I can quickly watch it on a different day. Just not today. It's also the hottest day of the year so far, so this is going to be a very sweaty boy talking about sweaty men and women doing their wrestling. It's gonna be. Anyway, we're from the Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. 15,000 strong for a huge gate, and bloody hell, they were loud all night, singing all along. Because I didn't watch the buy-in show, so my first thing was the tag team match opener, and they were so loud for that, for absolutely everything. I thought it was one of the better AEW pay-per-view show structures, because even technically the ebbs were designed in a way where it was more investment ebb rather than wrestling quality ebb, so there was never really too big of a dip. Technically your ebb was Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe. Sure, that's an investment ebb because it's not had long as a build, but it's still Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe. So is it really? The level of this show was so high throughout, and plenty of the matches all started with them just jumping straight away, wasting no time whatsoever. And of course we've got our multi-man mayhem before the main event as well. But I'll go through the show in order, which is kind of the way that's the structure I do these shows. As we start reviewing our Double or Nothing show with the I Quit New York Street Fight AEW Tag Team Championship, FDR versus Cope and Christian. So let's play the sound clip and let's get into that match.
Don't do it! Oh, no! No! I quit!
High stakes to open the show, and Jesus were the crowd amped for it. We want tables. Instead, Dax got a barbed wire wrapped around his wrist, which gave Christian a good idea. Why not wrap barbed wire around the camera side middle rope? They didn't hang about amping up the violence. Each of these opening minutes introduced a weapon friend to play with, belt whips to the New York chanting, "Who's your daddy?" for a wee little chuckle. TLC after Cope suplexed Dax onto a barricade-draped ladder. Then TLC again when he fetched a sacred table out from under the ring. If somebody doesn't watch wrestling, then they hear a loud "We want tables," and then someone gets a table out and they do a loud cheer. It's what's so sacred about these tables? Conditioning from about 20-30 years ago is the answer, and it still lingers. A slightly more serious baddie takeover, with Cope taken out with a chair wrapped around his neck and whipped into the ring post. Got intercepted for some Christian unique fun. Dax all mean as he fetched a toolbox. Next thing I know, I'm watching Christian pinch his nose with a pair of pliers before then using them on Cash's balls with a hilarious lift to sell it so cartoonishly. So I love wrestling sometimes. You don't just clamp something something onto somebody's balls. If you clamp something onto someone's balls, you then got to bounce them up and down, and they fly like 3-4 feet in the air. I love wrestling logic. Wrestling logic will come in later. There's one spot in particular in the Stadium Stampede I'm just like, yes, absolutely yes. Like, I know wrestling psychology normally comes up in serious matches, but in this Stadium Stampede match, there's a moment of wrestling psychology, which is absolute silly, stupid nonsense, and I'm all here for it. But in this one, don't worry, we then eventually got our more serious baddie flow. An assisted pile driver onto the announce desk sent Cope into nighttime mode again. Then a cinder block to smash over Christian's injured wrist. And Christian was just, like, every time it was a gem out of that man's mouth, like every time the ref put the mic there to ask if he wanted to quit. I banged your mother, to an amazing reaction and a loud chant repeating his words. One lad just stood there in the crowd, singing it whilst enthusiastically thrusting the air. He wasn't on the focus of a shot. I think it was like over the shoulder of Christian or something. And one of the shots is the guy in the background just thrusting the air really enthusiastically. He really got into that chant. And of course, go fuck yourself, to a he said the naughty word kind of pop. Stoke assistants front and centre. The top rope were removed so they could use the hook for fun times. Cope finally back in for a spear, but it led to Stoke striking him with Christian's stolen watch right in the face for a shatter machine. And out came Beth. Her beating up finally paid off, and speaking of Mick Foley, flaming table set for her by our baddies, but she dodged and Cash speared Stoke onto it like bloody hell Stoke, taking the firebomb. Like, sure, he's the match's most clothed man, but still, it's crazy for Stoke to take the firebomb, and practically naked Cash as well. He was the one who went face first into it, which left poor innocent Dax all alone with the Canadians. Sharpshooter, crossface, still didn't quit, so Beth fetched ye oldie big spiky stick, and yep, that got Harwood to say the words. Cope and Christian tag champions, pyro going off and all, the crowd singing again, and we're one step closer to what's surely the all-in triple threat tag plan. But this was such a fun opening tag match. Chaos from minute one, didn't really hang about, just immediately jumped into it. I've been saying for a while that I've been concerned that when we got to this match, or we got to some form of it, that we'd end up with a huge segment of serious Adam. And a really good play was Adam was the one who got continuously taken out, so it was Christian. And it's very different with Christian, because he's kept that edge of his character to be an asshole. So everything he's doing it in a way where he's still being a piece of shit, even though he's on the goodie team. He kept that flow nice and entertaining, so even though it was a segment of the bad guys on top, that's when he got those chants of who's your daddy and all that stuff. Because Christian's character was just singing so loudly. Well, he switched that out and it's serious Adam. Like, if he's the one taking that offense, then all you're going to get is the serious go F yourself stuff. Like, it's not the same. So I felt like it was a really good idea. I thought a really well put together match. The tribute to Edge and Mick Foley was great with the fire table. Still surprised it was Stoke of all people that took it. But it just really woke up the crowd for the show as well. Like, after this, they were so excited for the second match. And then, Bloomin' Tony, what a flex going from that opening match and having the audacity to follow it up with Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita. Like, Jesus Christ. Just an embarrassment of riches. With that being the follow-up. Like, the hottest start to a show possible. Quite literally, there was fire. But yeah, really enjoyed this tag team match. And honestly, seeing the creativity within it, like, not just like spot-wise, but also character-wise, it did get me excited for All In. Which feels like that's what Double or Nothing is kind of becoming. It's got its own, like, unique fun things like the Anarchy-style matches. It feels like now you'll start to see the start of the Owen Cup, and you'll start to see storylines coming to an end in, like, main event stuff. But it also is very clearly now a setup for All In, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a rhythm you kind of have to get used to, because that wasn't always the case with AEW. Double or Nothing felt like a place where storylines would end, or you'd shift it into a new gear, rather than what we've been bubbling finally starting to take centre stage and actually happen. And I'm saying getting excited for All In, that's because I'm assuming they're building to the triple threat tag. And I don't think New Day's contracts end in time for them to do anything for All In, because it's only like 2-3 months away, so that's not in my mind. But in my mind, it's a tribute to the TLC tag stuff from 25 years ago. So for me, that's kind of what they're aiming for. I assume. We'll see. But still, yeah, really, really fun tag match. Part of me expects that I might have actually just been a bit tired watching this if it came later in the show, but you put this at the start of the show and it's just electric. It works so well. To have arguably your most violent match be your first one, and the crowd stays hot for the rest of it as well. What an achievement. But we do move on, and bloody hell. Right, okay. Not to get too British with my reaction to it, but, you know, but sometimes when you just enjoy something so much, it just brings it out of you. The AEW International Championship, Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita. Our second holy shit chant at the bell, and we were only 2 matches in. But I think this roster might be over, people. Fuck Don Callis, nearly as loud as the first break in the action cheer. Like, as much as this crowd loved wrestling, they hated Don Callis just as much. Okada's counterculture flowed far earlier than the final stretch, which makes sense given they're both familiar Don Callis family members, but damn did these counter flashes amp me up. And New York too, by the sounds of it. Cheeky tease of a raging fire to the floor, instead a counter rainmaker toppled Takeshita off the apron. This was where we got our lovely dose of cheeky Kazu, the biggest cheeky smile after a ringside DDT. Then Callis had to stop him from hitting a tombstone ringside, like you're both part of my family. You can wrestle, but you can't hurt him like that. While Takeshita had no hesitation, brainbuster, Don I irate at Konosuke, but the lad was just fired up and roaring. And back into the ring for another amping flow. Takeshita still hit his big boy, big high backdrop, but it came with another lovely run of counters. Tombstone hit in the ring in counter had both men down, rising back up with strikes, middle fingers, and those amping roars. The crowd on their feet for the constant counters of signatures. The Rainmaker into the Blue Thunder Bomb in particular was fucking beautiful. Neither lad able to hit 2 moves in a row, with the follow-up being a counter, reversal, or other man's big move swinging it right back. Holy shit for the action this time, rather than the occasion. Just such a top-tier closing final minutes. Kept the pedal down with that same one-move counter flow, with Okada's dropkicks reserved solely for this bit, but one rollout after the dropkick saw no Rainmaker follow-up, instead of charging knee and raging fire for the win. After the match, Don was having to hold back Okada, Rocky, and Mark Davies. Proto-star Kyle Fletcher returned in a bright pink suit, staring all serious as he's made his way down. Only he can pull that suit off. Blazer off, stood up to Okada and just stared the Callis men off. He gave a big hug to Takeshita, music played for happy times, raised the belt, Lariato, down went Takeshita. Baddie Fletcher has chosen Proto-Okada and the family. You know this was coming, he shouted as he held the new champion's head and brain-busted him to finish the message. Then we got our money set up. Because obviously the crowd is booing when Fletcher does all that stuff, because they didn't want him to choose Okada and the family. But then when he picks up the belt, there's a little exchange between him and Okada. We've been teasing Fletcher versus Takeshita this whole time with the beating up. Suddenly, you just, in a flash, also tease Fletcher Okada. I was like, oh, okay. Like, sure, Fletcher and Takeshita is a money feud, but what about all three of Takeshita, Fletcher, and Okada? Also, it probably doesn't need to be said, but fair to say Konosuke's out of the family. But I just love the way that they use it to tease the three of them in this weird dance over the championship instead of it just shifting to Fletcher Takeshita. That Okada still cares far too much about this title to let any of this go. It feels like that faction within Don Callis' family hasn't been solved by kicking out Takeshita, and I really like that as an idea. And you've got Andrade getting annoyed at Don Callis always choosing Okada too. Right, onto the Owen. We've got one women's Owens match. Mina Shirakawa versus Athena. I did like the shots of the trophy that we got on this night, just panning around with the depth of field on the camera, and on it with the names of all the past winners etched onto it. Our yearly slot with Athena on the AEW shows because they need to fill up a tournament, and then she's one of the most exciting watchers in the thing. Mina was focused on knee hurty times, which led to Athena all slow to climb the ropes for her O-face, which for some reason I've written in Irish style with an apostrophe, not a hyphen. Which I might do that from now on. It's a little giggle just to myself. The forever Ring of Honor champion seemed determined to take as many bumps vertically straight onto her head as possible. I just love the way she takes moves, like everything looks brutal. Plenty of reversals in this one too. Mina used that worked on knee to nail other shit like the spinning elbow, and finally locked in the figure 4 leg lock. But a float into Athena Tombstone finally had her down long enough for that slower climb up the ropes, or face, for the win, and most exciting Athena versus Sarit outcome was just surely too strong to pass on. It's like, yes, let's do it. But sure, there was the tease of, oh, you got Mina versus Sarit, that's 2 Japanese women and one that make the final, isn't that cool? Yeah, but in terms of what match I'm actually the most excited to see, like what pairing gets me more excited, Athena and Sarit. Oh, tasty. And then you've got your future Ring of Honor main event where Sarit doesn't win the tournament, but she beats Athena in this tournament, and you've got Athena versus Sarit main eventing a Ring of Honor show. Like, it feels pretty pretty locked in as a top tier thing to do there. That feels like a decent transition into the AEW Continental Championship, Jon Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly. The second visit this week after Wednesday's banger time limit draw to set this up. Renee set the stage, Kyle's become the mountain that Moxley cannot climb, so here he is having to prove himself to himself again, like, oh Mox, what are you like? Ringside kicking fun times for Kyle ended badly when he unwisely kicked the ring post. The strike exchange in the ring ended up with Kyle unable to stay standing during his own kicks. Mox all slowing things down and in control as he whipped and talked at that leg. No running even for the conglomerate. His leg too hurty and Mox took advantage. An armbar was all grand though. Just, all John had to do was wrench on that leg, and in no time he was the one locking in the hold. Nice little bit with O'Reilly able to read Mox going for his leg, so he blocked it so he could armbar again. And I love the panic on Mox's face, sending him red just like last year whenever Kyle locked in that ankle lock. Just in that moment, all these memories of him tapping out to Kyle. Just the pure panic on his expression. But this time he's grown so much of a character since those matches were happening that he's now got the will, determination and the know-how to actually get out of that. I just really like that. As a note, it felt like that's what they were portraying anyway. That Mox is far stronger of a wrestler, and he's probably practiced getting out of that hold so much in his training whilst Kyle's been out injured. Because I was a bit worried that this might lead us still into Moxley being a bit too much of a baddie, but I like him dancing on the edge. I like him showing all these villainous tendencies in a definitely villain group, but he's got so many likeable traits as well that it's so easy to get behind him and understand him. But unfortunately, that makes him a good villain. A good villain you are able to understand and kind of see where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with it or if you don't agree with their methods. And it appears like with Will Ospreay, that's kind of what they're setting up, is more don't agree with his methods, but he gets results type of thing. Which means he's not a goodie, even if you have some form of respect for him. That doesn't make him a good guy. After Mox's amp up outside, we switched into the next gear, and the crowd were there for every swing and transition. Hey, AEW fans love their rising strike exchanges that amp up into those flash counter bits. This time it was O'Reilly that got trapped in the middle of the ring in the ankle lock. The crowd got louder as he flailed about in hope, but to no avail, and he tapped. Both lads hobbled about, holding their knees after going after the bell. Death Riders and conglomerates all out for their men. Just a handshake of respect to transition us off into the next thing. But there's something about Carnivale and John Moxley that just works. Moxley just having that pure panic on his face. Like, he really did sell that Carnivale really has been a mountain he could not climb before. This was just as strong as their past matches as well. And back to the Owen Hart we swing. This time for the men, Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe. Having this match immediately after allowed Max to cheer on his training friend from the crowd during the entrance. This was the first of our back-to-back Owen quarterfinals for the men. Feels like we're naturally building to a much stronger semi-finals and finals for this tournament. I feel like the women's tournament feels quite weak, really. Because if they're not doing Alex Windsor in England, I don't quite know what the plan is. You could immediately just push Swerve, but I feel like because it's going to Wembley, surely it's going to be that. It doesn't feel like this is going to be the launching pad for Athena at some point, even though fans massively want it, because Athena's great. It feels like they're going to do the winter match in England because she's from there. And you got Will Ospreay in the men's, but he's got the bigger story going on as well, so even though that could be seen as, that's predictable, it's like, but it's also the right thing to do. If you're telling a longer, bigger story that the fans are invested in, go with it. You don't have to switch it up because they predicted it. Cough, cough, Game of Thrones changing the ending because some fans on Reddit figured it out. No, because that means now your ending's not been set up and makes no sense. The reason that fans figured it out is because it makes sense. That means you have correctly laid down all the stuff. Don't change it. You weirdos, you idiots. Technically the same here. They're setting up Will Ospreay. All of the cards on the table look like they add up. Just go with it. Continue it. The fans have invested. They're not turning on it. Just go for it. And of course, you give us a Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland final. That I'm not against that at all. You could surprise us by having Brody King beat Swerve Strickland to amp up something between them, which could bubble over to a final match at All In. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ospreay versus Brody King would also be an amazing match. Because if Ospreay's winning anyway, you could push forward somebody slightly new. But yes, the money match is Swerve versus Ospreay. But here it was against Samoa Joe. Ospreay's not a Death Rider, he says, but he's got a competitive edge now. Will with an Oz cutter right as Joe was raising his fist to pose in the ring during his entrance. And Bryce rang the bell, like rightly to Joe's frustration, like come on ref. A great purely Joe spot with Ospreay going for that handspring moonsault out the ring, so Joe just stepped back and waited for the man to land outside before just grabbing the fecker. A whip of the head into the barricade later, and Joe got his moment of retribution over the British. Will himself had focus on Joe's forever bandaged left arm, which was more successful than when he went for his patented flying springboard stuff. Like he went for the second Oz cutter and Joe just walked out the way to a great old cheer. Open hand slap exchange was fun for us, but also in Joe's favour. The loudest of pops when Will got Joe up for the Styles Clash. AEW fans enjoy their TNA references as much as Tony Khan himself. Joe's Uranagi out the corner is still awesome as hell. Like just slammed Ospreay down and locked a choke in on the man dead for a rope save. But trying to take advantage of that with a muscle buster, saw Ospreay flip out of it and bang, hidden blade, kick out at one, but no hesitation for a second hidden blade, a snap sudden spring into the win for Ospreay. And he goes on to the semi-finals. I think what I liked about these is these matches were still really high quality, even though the investment level wasn't anywhere near as high. I feel like John Moxley Carnivale kind of fits into this as well, where their storyline was a massive big deal at a different period of time. And they've brought it back to put on a high caliber match, but it's not currently very high investment. Ospreay versus Samoa Joe, they've bubbled up towards this pay-per-view with linking character reasons. Like, it's more of like, in terms of heatedness, I understand why there's that heat between them, but I, as a viewer, aren't really feeling it. I'm more feeling the Death Rider stuff, and it doesn't feel like that's the worst thing in the world. It means it's like middle portion of the show. You've got incredible matches, even if you're not as invested of where the storylines are at currently, because they are evidently building stuff for later, which makes them perfect mid-card. It's not mid-card of no importance. If mid-card of, it's not the most heated thing right now, but they're attempting to get us all excited for All In or whatever. Like, overall, it makes the product feel so hot, almost rotating who's the main focus. Sure, right now it's Darby, Allin and MJF, but come Forbidden Door, like, maybe you're going to be completely different names in that main event slot. And for All In, it feels like it's just going to be Will Ospreay. Going to have that nice, lovely British moment, even if he is from Essex. Anyway, Owen.
It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Heart men's tournament for Swerve Strickland and Bandido. Another match just charging from the bell. Swerve was ready for Bandido's charge, but they wasted no time spinning out to ringside and launching each other about. Back in the ring, the launching about wasn't over, as Swerve threw the man backwards into the turnbuckle with a German for me neck hurts times. Swerve zoned in on it and, oh yeah, look at that, he has loads of offense aimed at a man's head. Side note, I really enjoyed Nana's little dance, like all jubilant with his man in control. The perfect hype man. Bandido is so damn great though, like his goody fire flows just get me amped every time. Swerve with more opportunistic snaps into offense now that he's a baddie. Just a snap and then a slow down to kindle that next Bandido fire. The best of those sudden snaps easily to pop up into standing on strong Mexican shoulders and hitting a house call. That looked amazing and just had the crowd buzzing for a fair while after. Swerve stomp followed up, kicked out of, but they weren't done yet. Reverse Varna off the apron to the loudest holy shit off the show so far. Plenty of crowd shots of folk with huge smiles just shaking their heads in disbelief. It feels like that's part of the Bandido pay-per-view. Like, I know Swerve's also in this match. And Swerve on pay-per-view is also something special. But Bandido on pay-per-view has this amazing thing of you're excited to see him, and maybe in the first half of the match you're a little bit tired, you're not the most energetic that you have been throughout the show, but by the end of the match you've seen so much cool shit that you're absolutely buzzing for what comes next. The damage to the neck stops Bandido from holding onto Swerve for the 21-20 plex. The man sold it sicko style with the shakes and oopsie nerve damage sell, and good lord the Hurricane Varna that spiked Swerve on his head out of a powerbomb that was already popped up to from behind just to show off how amazing they are. 21-20 plex halted mid-spring, vertebreaker, house call, 1, 2, 3. Swerve posted on high with the medicine man checking on Bandido. Swerve vs Brody, the delightful semi-final destination before we get to Ospreay vs Strickland or Ospreay vs King. It does feel like for the men's side that even if the first round of matches, I'm not looking at it going, oh yeah, these are definitely the people who should be in line to main event All In. It does feel like from the semi-finals onwards I have a different feeling. The semi-finals onwards it feels pretty strong. I think that's my slight difference with the women's. Even though technically they're relatively strong matches for the semi-finals, it feels like a light tournament just because there's so many big names that just aren't in it. Obviously Willow had to relinquish the title and that's given us a bit of a question mark. But yeah, no Stat, no Shida, no Hayter. There's some big names in there that just aren't there for this, and Hayter makes a lot of sense to go for it because it's in England, just like it would do with the logic of Windsor. I think in my head the tournament should just be bigger. Like it's not enough slots for enough people, but it works on a TV show like this where you've got lots of little plates spinning and you're not pressured into putting them into this tournament. It's more trying to make sure that these few names are set free, or somebody from the outside like Athena who's never going to be involved in the storyline anyway you can bring in, and that's how Tony Khan set it up. Even though because you do get to main event Wembley, it kind of feels like people should be absolutely clamouring for these tournament spots. Anyway, so the match that did mean that we had a slightly weaker women's tournament, because they're bloody here in this championship match, the 4-way for the women's championship, Thekla versus Jamie Hayter versus Chris Statlander versus Hikaru Shida. Not a surprise that this was another match with a quick flash start, like given pace and chaos is the name in matches like this. Little of that 2 down 2 in the ring flow though, with that really reserved for setting up that next bit with all 4 jumping in again. The crowd had a lovely time getting to do lots of counting with the quick pin attempts, no hanging about as they quickly shifted the outside dive spots onto all the lasters for Thekla. Love the bubbling vibe of all 4 trying to out-crazy each other, like Thekla getting all cheeky, then Stat just bites her finger to stop her. The pace picked up with all 4 in the ring and none of them able to hit a second move with someone always back up to jump in. Commentary called it as anybody's match as they all just lamped at each other in those rising strikes I've already said that AEW fans enjoy. The closest pin at that point from Thekla as she rolled out of a Shida Falcon Arrow into a roll-up. That repeating of no room for bullshit as the champion did an upside down spider walk and Stat just walked in casually and lifted her up for a tombstone. Haterade off a bit of a counter reversal fun that had Thekla dead. Were it not for Shida taking advantage, Stat and Shida finally bubbled over, with the strong lass winning out against her tag partner and Hayter ringside, all alone in the ring with Thekla, Stat in a night fever. Then Shida swung in with her kendo stick. Hayter dealt with her, but that left Thekla alone in the ring to eventually recover and just stomp Stat for the win. I was wondering where it was bubbling up to, and then the second that Thekla went down, I really enjoyed just the way that it flowed towards the finish. From that point of like what it was setting up and what gave Thekla that room, so it didn't feel like Thekla was instigating like your typical baddie interference and stealing the win in that way. It organically happened, and I feel like that's far much better for Tekla's run, where she didn't really do anything to like take an attention away or be a cheeky baddie, or be a cheeky baddie woman. Instead, it was a bubbling over what was happening between the other three that gave her that sudden opening. Like Shida full-on kendo sticking her team. That suddenly was enough to do it. Yes, the reign of Thekla continues. I assume she's holding it to All In because I don't really see another world or who else she'll hold the championship. It feels like it is missing a focal point, which is why I look at the women's tournament and I think, sure, why not do Windsor winning? But the women's division in AEW, it feels strong, but it doesn't have like a focal point elevating the entire division. It's like it's missing something. And obviously after a year or whatever it was with Toni Storm and Mercedes, suddenly both divisions had such strong focal points to work off of, and they're both gone and neither of them are there. And you got a really strong heel in Thekla, where the other characters are not, none of them are at that point of becoming the focal point. They feel like good characters, and I'm invested in the division. It's one of those divisions where I feel like I just want a bit more, because there are really good sparks in there. I'm really liking Shida's character since she's returned. I really like Thekla as champion, but every time I get to a pay-per-view, I'm not like super invested in the title match they've served up, and often that can just be as simple as either more TV time or just more time cooking up the character directions in the oven. So the storylines don't feel quite as basic sometimes, because I'm not saying let's do this storyline or that storyline. I'm just like, well, if you have more room and more time to figuring out what you could do, then whatever you do serve up will probably be a high quality. Right, on to the craziness. Stadium Stampede. The Demand, the Dogs, Andrade and Mark Davies versus Jericho, Hurt Syndicate, Young Bucks, Jack Perry and Kenny Omega in a 14-man chaos. And oh, the happy sound I made when I realised this was just a more silly, less violent, less licensed music anarchy. Don splashed out for a limo for all of his men. All the baddies arrived in their various cars, all cocky and chewing their gum. And Tony Khan splashed out for Metallica for the goodies, cool men in expensive suits video, chucking a tennis ball to each other and having a cool graphic on the screen to say who they are. And yeah, Kenny smoking his cigar, trying to look cool and just coughing did get me. And then they actually made their entrances in their suits. Like, I mean, not the worst way to immediately tell me that this match was going to be different. Such a loud reaction to all 14 men just throwing hands at the bell. Blazers off as things get more serious. Lashley so could hoist Ricochet out the ring. Kenny so could at least sell to her so he's about to believably do a dive. He didn't. He took his blazer off. That means he could do it. Tony Leona walked around with 3 lads on his shoulders because he's a big strong boy. Ricochet then got to do his shooting star dive out onto all the lads to the tune of bold, bold. And such wrestling nonsense. There we go. This is the wrestling psychology logic. The logic of the talk in wrestling, where if you're doing a hold on somebody and somebody out on the apron then grabs onto you, that means the hold you're putting on is put on with even more pressure. So Kenny was being held by Leona, and then every man on the baddie team formed a chain holding hands. Each one then pulled, meaning that the talk locked in more. It was making the move more painful, as it was like a 7-man thing all the way down the ramp. Absolute nonsense. But I absolutely adored it. The original Elite got to do their dive, so only fair that Shelton Benjamin got to do his, winding back the clock. But there was an even further wind back for Jericho when he did his dive out the corner onto everyone. The crowd so loud and enjoying themselves as they all hit diving Varnas one by one, and then fully into the chaos. 4 lads backstage, Jack Perry with a vacuum cleaner catcher over Davies' head that went everywhere, and here you go New York, enjoy your tables. The Dogs ran away, the tables would come later, the Dogs ran away and the Bucks went after them. A nice segue to finding out what the Demand and the Hurt Syndicate were up to. They were brawling in a hallway and a Leo Rush cameo, like Bobby Lee Lashley's manager once upon a bad era of WWE time. Now, Rush is just a creepy little fella. Outside by the merchandise for the Bucks and the Dogs, finally our multi-screen of madness between Clark Connors rolling about, selling on an escalator, and Andrade taking a selfie with 2 women and Luchasaurus in a blonde wig. I'll give no further context. It works perfectly for this match. Jericho poured out a bag of tennis balls to a chant of balls, balls, suplex onto the tennis balls. Then Ricochet with the Death Valley driver onto the tennis balls. The action spilled into catering, and I don't know how many noticed, but Luchasaurus was just in the background in disguise as a caterer, which I love because he was literally just in the background and never mentioned, never the focus. I was just looking at right at the screen being like, is that Luchasaurus? And then now like a dark-haired wig pretending to be a caterer. Andrade got tripped into the back of a large gentleman, which was Satnam Singh, who just declared a food fight and hey, this is just pure silly fun. Don't be expecting no blood or fire in this one. Back to ringside, Clark Connors Connors was now in a shopping cart with a bin on his head, wheeled down into a super kick. Like, this match is so stupid. So of course I loved it. But it's so silly and stupid. Toa Leona and Shelton Benjamin finally rejoined the ringside action. Eventually Lashley and a hell of a spear from old Trolley Boy. Jericho and Ricochet had boiled over into a fun tennis brawl, with tennis racket swings and all. And behind the door was Luther, and he gave Chris a human-sized tennis racket. And I'm just like, I'd already called this match stupid. Then he gets handed the biggest tennis racket in the world. I'm just like, oh, this is so fucking stupid. Starts beating up Ricochet with a massive tennis racket. Then a pin attempt amongst the tennis machine, firing the odd ball out. Back to the ring for some actual wrestling to cheer. Matt Jackson, Northern Lights, and Shelton Germans, with both getting to hit their suplexes on both dogs at the same time. Triple super kick to Leona sent him groggy for the spear. That's the end of that, because back to the nonsense. Our one-eyed Mark Davies was searching for Jack Perry, and Perry, annoyed that his cartoon plan to murder Davies didn't play out, a distraction note in a golf buggy, so the Aussie would be in position for the Jungle Man to drive his bus at him. Like, Jack, you can't be murdering people. Jack just got out of his bus, just like, oh, dang it, my plucky plan didn't come up. Jack, what are you doing? Back to the ring, V-trigger to Andrade as the plethora of ringside tables got teased. Benjamin and Leona gave us our first crash. And oh, look at that, Mark Davies just ringside for Lashes to spear for the second table bump. And the Oprah of table spot sequences. Perry flew, the Jacksons elbowed, and Kenny hit a one-winged angel on Andrade off the apron, which left poor bold Ricochet in the ring with every goodie standing to get in a strike. Jericho the last, but Khan pushed Ricochet out of the way to save him. They're like, hey, you gotta keep Jericho and Ricochet going. You gotta save that. I'll say it immediately, the alarm bells are ringing. Ricochet beat Jericho in the first match. That means this feud's going forever. And a 7-man super kick to Khan. Lion Soul, and Jericho wins. I feel like that's just saying that Ricochet is going to beat Jericho at every turn, so technically Jericho winning here over Khan is fine, because he didn't pin Ricochet. Much sillier version of the Anarchy match. So silly, so stupid, so much nonsense. It didn't reach the Anarchy levels. It felt like it was just steeped in silly and stupid fun, and for me it never broke out into like that pure Anarchy chaos that comes with those Anarchy in the arena matches. I feel like part of that is like the first 20 minutes. It's just them walking around brawling, playing the same song on loop as they beat each other up. I think it's part of the Anarchy chaos. This just immediately fell straight into silly nonsense. Hey, if you don't like silly nonsense in your wrestling, you hated this, but I love this. I had a great old time with it. I'm a bit worried that we're still getting Ricochet, Chris Jericho prolonged and it's going to keep going on forever. So the red flag is waving there, no different for Jericho. His feud is playing out in the exact same way as always. But then we slightly switch gears to the main event, title versus hair, AEW Championship, Darby Allin versus MJF. So which did we get? The wee broken boy or a freshly bowled one? I love the idea of starting off with Darby immediately going for the headlock takeover pins, but then fuck. First dive out the ring, Allin's head clipped the top rope and curled him up like a ball for a landing onto his neck, like bloomin' neck darves. MJF mugged the crowd to give him a minute. Shivani tied that to the he's batshit crazy moniker and referenced the ESPN article. I mean, I'd keep mentioning it. Just giving the time for Allin, just giving him a minute to at least collect himself. It did mean we immediately started the match with a shake-up and a bang. As in, the first dive. You got your typical headlock takeover. There's suddenly the first dive is landing on his neck like a ball. Like, oh no. The craziness didn't stop there. It is a Darby Allin main event after all. Coffin drop onto the apron just to let us know that. Whilst we were nowhere near done and MJF turned to steel steps onto its side to pack his bile driver with a thud. A low blow and headlock takeover for a sudden snap attempt with MJF just hurting the man and in control. Commentary mentioned how that was retribution for what Max did to McFoley on the buy-in. As I said earlier, I barely had time to watch this whole show, never mind the buy-in. Scorpion Deathlock set Max up, but he read Darby using that to set up for a coffin drop and he got the legs up. Fast pins back and forth for some actual wrestling amongst the craziness. That spot where it's the code red halt and reverse backflip onto Darby's legs just looks so awesome. The sequence got a standing ovation and AEW in reply. An MJF charge sent him out of the ring, but then he used that to lure Darby out and pulled the cameraman into the way. I liked the idea of them staying on the shot of the cameraman, but the replay didn't work. So it's like they practiced it, they planned it. They're going to do the point of view of the cameraman, then when he goes down, you switch to the cameraman that's behind him, so you get a full view of the dive. But in actuality, they maybe shouldn't have switched to it, but it's all like part of the same thing. Like, so we do this and then we switch to it. But the actual footage wasn't that great. It's like, oh, that's a shame. Maybe it worked in practice when they tried it out, but here, practically, the biggest problem really was that the cameraman had to obviously protect his expensive equipment, so he can't just fall down backwards and just go for it. And like, given you could see that everyone's grand a tad too clearly, the cameraman's falling over nice and softly. Because of course, when we did the first camera shot was from his point of view, and then we cut to him where he's basically dead like a upside down lizard. It's like, ah. It's like, that's one thing. But when we see the full view, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he slowly put his camera down, went backwards and be like, do I still sell this? Because I didn't really, anything really happen. It worked to the live audience though, like a really loud reaction. Then they were fully into the medics taking him backstage. Max preemptive with the shaver on the stage, got jumped and choked by Darby, and oh look, a scaffolding staging that we'd been looking at all night, and a table set to have the trimmer spotlighted during Friedman's entrance. Darby climbed up amongst the stage lighting with a Foley bang bang, backwards from 15-20 foot up high, and on the landing his head hit the edge of the Wii platform the table was on, like head blood down the back of his head. Like, when he's made it unhideable, they caught it, it's like, oh damn, that's painful. It did lead us into a very Darby finish, because obviously he's trying to fight back with a obvious head wound, which is, really, that was an unplanned note that really did add to the ending. Instead of going to the replay, they just gave up a close-up of Max's butt and then into it, because they directed our attention to the replay and was like, well, that's just Max's butt. I don't think I'm meant to be seeing this. Coffin drop in the ring kicked out, Scorpion deathlock, but Darby couldn't hold it on. Gave us room for a Maxwell shit-eating grin. Went for the headlock takeover, but trying to prove that point got countered into a Darby death drop, and climbing for the coffin, cut off at the ropes, avalanche tombstone off the top, and then the headlock takeover. 1, 2, 3. Max's hair survives. The crowd initially booed because the bad guy had won, they wanted to see him bold, and then they kind of started applauding and clapping. They're almost like the inverse of WWE reaction, where they go, cheer, a thing happened. Oh wait, no, that's crap. This was more, oh no, the baddie won, boo. Oh, but that match was amazing, yay. So it's an interesting reaction from New York. But MJF champion again, the wee boy finally broken after his flash of a reign. It feels like this may be one of the shorter AEW reigns, but it's one of the most memorable. It definitely feels like this is going to be a title reign which is really fondly remembered further down the line. Afterwards, Allin was put onto a stretcher. Max stood triumphant, posing on him and raising the title up high, and Kevin Knight chased him off. His expression for it seemed more disrespected, angry than saving. He got up onto the turnbuckle to shout at MJF as MJF ran away up the ramp, and Darby on the stretcher was just suddenly positioned in a way that Kevin Knight could maybe do something, and UFO splash onto Darby. A surprise turn for Kevin Knight. Initial hands on the face gasp, being like, it's not my fault, he got set up for it, and suddenly the R2X button appeared in front of me. I just pressed it, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. Before the more serious, nah, I did that. I'm a bad guy now. For the final shots as we transition away. It's interesting that they've chosen Kevin Knight because he is the obvious star out of his pairing, but Speedball feels like the most obvious, you can't boo him kind of babyface. So I don't think a turn for him would ever work. But they've put a lot of stock into Kevin Knight. They truly believe in him. And for whatever reason, they've looked at the rest of the roster and thought Kevin Knight as a heel can work, and they've got all these matches lined up for him. It's interesting. I wasn't expecting them to turn him. I was expecting this to be a relatively soft Kevin Knight runs out. Maybe we'll get another Kevin Knight MJF thing because we've seen them having their little feud. But yeah, suddenly turning on Darby Allin, which I assume means the end of Jet Speed. You could have Darby Allin out for a little bit, and he can, he's had a crazy month. Let him recover for a second. And he can maybe do some Kevin Knight Speedball stuff. I mean, I say that because it was right at the end of the show, and it was getting closer to the end. I just assumed they weren't going to do anything special. I assumed the time was reserved for MJF doing his pose and then leaving, whatever. So with so little time for Kevin Knight to do his angle, there isn't really a lot of notes here. They come out of nowhere, and I've not watched any of the Tony Khan talk afterwards. Like, as I said, I've literally only just had time to watch this thing. But anyway, that is the end of Double or Nothing. I thought this was a really good show. I think I said at the start of it that it's one of the better paced AEW pay-per-views. There's always a lot of matches on these things, so trying to get the card order right to make sure that the things flow into the other relatively well without tiring you out is quite an achievement for me. It had that Double or Nothing feel where there's no hanging about, just immediately getting into the action. And of course you got the absolutely batshit crazy anarchy style stupid silly thing just to have you smiling and just having a bit of fun. Like, it's not meant to be taken seriously. And I think they did a really good job of setting expectations right out the gate. Like the second they all came out in suits, because I was trying to look for a reason why this wasn't Anarchy in the Arena, but the second it was a stupid thing to start us off with, I was like, okay, I think I know what this is going to be. It immediately told me the tone. They're not wearing suits so they can get blood on the white shirts. They're wearing suits because it's cool, and we don't need any further than that, because this is a stupid, silly match. Which, to be fair, is kind of what the Stadium Stampede was. It was a pre-taped thing, yeah, but a lot of the spots in there were more stupid, silly fun, rather than chaotic, crazy violence all over the place, which is what Anarchy in the Arena became. Personally, that worked for me. It means that you've now got a decision. You don't have to do one every single year. You can just do a stupid, silly thing, or you can do the hyped-up, violent thing, depending on just where you are feud-wise. Because Anarchy in the Arena would have made no sense for this match. The feud's just not there. It would have felt a bit forced. But this is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But yeah, just watching this show, for me, it just cemented that AEW is a hot product right now. So many wrestlers on this show got such huge reactions. It's got me looking forward to All In an excited manner. We've got Forbidden Door coming up as well. Like, so many on this roster are in a great place, and so many storylines are firing on cylinders. I've got quite a few critique for the women's match, and obviously more Jericho Ricochet, which we saw coming from minute one. It's like, oh, we are doing it though. They're not done anything to swerve out of that. There's a lot of character directions that I'm really digging, like Swerve is a good example. But yeah, I'm really invested in a lot of stuff they're doing. And for me, that's a good sign of a hot product. For me, the best sign of the hot product when we were in the mid-card, and I was like, there is no lull here because I'm interested in all these characters and things. They're just not at the tippy-top heated point. Like the opening match was at a tippy-top heated point, the closing match was like, but Moxley O'Reilly, Samoa Joe versus Will Ospreay, like, they're very high-quality matches, but they're not like a peak investment of a character or storyline-wise. It just meant that the entire show felt like it was on a really hot level. Arguably the only one being Athena and Mina Shirakawa. Because that was the other thing, as I was watching the Owen matches, in my mind I was like, does featuring this first round on pay-per-view make the tournament feel like a bigger deal, or does it not really work like that, and you should have just kept it on TV? And as I was watching it, I was thinking it was successful, it felt like it, and that could have just been because these matches are taking place in front of a hot crowd, so it makes it feel like a bigger deal, and maybe that's part of the idea. It's a hot show in front of a hot crowd, and they elevated everything. Yeah, so well done New York. Well done Queens. Oh, I also really enjoyed them just turning to Taz for any New York reference. That was quite funny. For him to just give further explanation, shit on New Jersey. Them just talking about all the big matches always taking place at the big New Jersey MetLife Stadium. And he's just like, yeah, they're all pieces of shit. They all suck. Everything sucks down there. I just really enjoyed that. Anyway, that brings me to the end of the review. Yeah, big fan of Double or Nothing. Really enjoyed it. Technically, nothing hit the height of my enjoyment of last year when they played Bodies on loop constantly at the start of Anarchy in the Arena. That was me at my happiest wrestling fandom. So it was quite a peak. I was having the time of my life watching Anarchy in the Arena last year. But as a show, this absolutely flew by. Did its job as now the pay-per-view that starts to get you excited for All In. I think that's becoming part of my reference is when I look at Double or Nothing in the way that it flows into All In, how successful is that road now? Because I don't want to call it a road to All In, because that just feels like I'm just comparing it and balancing it against what WWE does with their road to WrestleMania. But Double or Nothing in its way has now become designed to start to get you looking towards All In and getting excited. Like, these are the stories that we're planning to do at All In. How are you feeling about it? And I'd say at the moment, resounding success. That's kind of how I feel at the moment. As I say that, the only weak point for me is the women. It doesn't feel like Thekla Alex Windsor is there for that. They can bubble it up, they can do what they want, but at the moment, it feels like sure, why not, rather than, oh, this is something I'm excited for. They can get me invested, they can do it. But I feel like Alex Windsor is great on the mic. They just need to give her that time to actually do that for me and create a story around Windsor Thekla, other than just Windsor's won a thing, now she's got a match, and then the baddie started interfering. I feel like there needs to be something. Like, Will Ospreay's got this huge character thing that's been figured out and really detailed point type stuff. Like, the women don't get that, and it'd be really nice if they at least attempted something. Anyway, I'll be back this time next week to talk about just a standard Dynamite and Collision. But what did you think of Double or Nothing? Do hit me up and let me know. Thank you for listening and engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never take it for granted. Please do listen to all the other shows we have here on Social Suplex, and follow Rich on his YouTube journey, and all the new stuff that Trish is doing with all that massive work as well. I'll be back this time next week, so with that, I bid you adieu. Ta-ra, ta-ra.
It's cozy season, and nothing compares to wrapping yourself in a Minky Couture blanket. Luxuriously soft, perfectly warm, thoughtfully made. From movie nights to chilly mornings, Minky Couture turns everyday moments into pure comfort. Once you feel it, you'll understand why it's called the original best blanket ever. Visit minkycouture.com or a store near you and make this cozy season your softest one yet.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.